Understanding Investments a Few Minutes at a Time by Daniel Dower from Chapter 13, Money and Currencies, issue number 51. The Fisher Effect. The Fisher Effect is as much definition as theory. Nominal interest rates, the kind we quote in our everyday lives, are equal to real interest rates plus inflation. In other words, if someone lends money at 5% interest in an economy with 3% inflation, their real rate of interest is 2%. The International Fisher Effect. More interestingly, Fisher proposed that in a world with free capital flows, nominal interest rates should reflect expected changes in the spot exchange rate between countries. Otherwise, someone could borrow in one country and lend in another to make a risk-free profit, or arbitrage, if their expectations were correct. Combining this with the Fisher effect, we can further state that the change in a country's inflation rate will result in a proportional change in the country's interest rate and its exchange rate. Consider that the U.S. dollar to rupee conversion rate is 2 to 1. U.S. inflation is 2% annually, and rupee inflation is 6% annually. In order to receive the same real rate of return, let's assume 2%, a lender in the U.S. would need to lend at 4%, and a lender in India would need to lend at 8%. If a U.S. citizen makes a loan in rupees, he can get 8% annually, but when converting it back to dollars, he only has 4% to show for it. So the system is in balance. If inflation in the U.S. rises to 3%, the currency exchange rate has to shift to maintain equilibrium. A U.S. citizen making a loan in rupees will still get 8%, worth 4% in dollars, but since he can make a loan in the U.S. at 5%, 2% real rate plus 3% inflation, he'd rather do that. In order to be drawn into India, he needs 9%, but the Indian market only supports 8%. The exchange rate should shift from 2 to 1 to 1.6 to 1, such that the 8% loan in India has the same real return as the 5% loan in the U.S. This becomes important to us when considering investment internationally. In our investment practice, I consider U.S. multinationals to serve as a hedge against inflation. According to the International Fisher Effect, as inflation in the U.S. rises relative to other currencies, the dollar weakens against other currencies. That weakening causes earnings in other currencies to be more valuable, raising the net income of companies doing businesses internationally. Similarly, as inflation in the U.S. falls relative to other currencies, the dollar gets stronger, which decreases the net income of U.S. multinationals.